Hi, today's video is completely different to the normal ones. One subject that I try and avoid is politics. However, recent events are quite strong around the world and it impacts everything from economies to artificial intelligence, right? That's a fact that we have to deal with. Now, I myself have worked under different projects borderline targeting these subjects, which I can't talk about much. However, I would like to sort of present my view on this entire thing. So, bluntly put, what is happening around the world, Donald Trump, tariffs, Putin, uh, Asian repercussions, all these things. All right. So let's try and dive into this a little bit deeper. So we'll start with at the beginning, which is simply put the current president, Donald Trump of United States of America. Now, Donald Trump is a very smart businessman, right? I think pretty much everybody agrees on that. Now, in order to understand a person, you need to go back to the beginning and understand his life a little bit, right? Donald Trump, out of most presidents, I would say pretty much all the presidents, Donald Trump has given us the most amount of clues as to what his background is, right? And the best place to start is the Apprentice series, which is an exact replica of what his life is, what his ambitions are, and how he is as a person. Simple as that, right? I have watched the Apprentice season, I think, back to back many times over, and it gives a lot of information about Donald Trump. Donald Trump, simply put, is a very smart businessman, right? And if you look at the boardroom and if you look at that entire series, if we know, there are several things we can get out of him, right? Out of his behavior. And let's take one by one. First of all, he wants total control of the boardroom, right? He's a man in power. He's the ultimate alpha. If he's in a room with 20 other males, females, does not matter. He wants to be the alpha. He wants to be the one in charge. That is number one. Number two, if you notice, he does not like to talk negative. He always likes to talk positive. Check out the Apprentice series. I think weekly at a certain point they were featuring one of his businesses, either restaurant or ice cream parlor or one of his brands. He always gets somebody to come and talk positive about everything. Business is great. We are doing more than ever. Well, business is flowing in. It was always a positive discussion. If you look at the uh, episode which triggered off with Zelensky in the White House, it was under control up to a certain point. Although there was a bit of a tit-pat going with Vance, actually the trigger point was when Zelensky started talking negatively about America. That is when Donald Trump in and everything just went haywire, right? So Donald Trump is a person who does not talk negatively at all, who doesn't like to talk negatively at all. Now, this is not something new. This is go back to the beginning of the 19th century. People like Napoleon Hill spoke about it in length. This is a psychological and a sort of a tactic, right? It's a universal tactic where when you confess good things, positive things, that good things will start happening to you, right? So Donald Trump is a firm believer on that. There were several other businessmen who actually believed in this, and one of the famous ones was the McDonald's founder, right? Kroc, Mr. Kroc. He also believed in this theory. Now, also Donald Trump is a person who does not like to talk negatively. On the contrary, he's a person who likes to talk positively, right? Then, third thing, he's a loyalist. I mean, he loves loyalty. So, if we know one thing, if you're loyal to him, he will go to the ends of the earth to protect you, right? He will do whatever is needed to protect you. He's a very good gentleman. There are a lot of people who have actually sung praises about him because he has done so many good things, and most of these things were done without a big showcase. He actually did it privately. Again, the Apprentice series explains all that thing in one of the dinners, right? When one of the candidates asked him, he actually says about when they were traveling somewhere and there was a puncture in one of his cars and there was a person who came and helped him, and Donald Trump actually settled his mortgage, right? All these things are from The Apprentice, right? So Donald Trump is he loves loyalty, right? If you're on his side, he will go to the any extent to protect your name. Even do whatever is needed. It doesn't matter whatever is needed. Borderline, he will do whatever is needed to protect you, right? But if you're in the bad books with him, that is when his business competitiveness comes in, right? Again, it's nothing new. If you look at the business world, it's cutthroat world. And if your competitor is weak, it's simple strategy to go and cut him off and completely destroy him. Again, that comes into Donald Trump as well. Even in the political arena, you can see that in many ways, right? Now, the fourth thing about Donald Trump is that he never forgets, right? He always remembers things. He has a very sharp brain, one of the sharpest that I have ever seen. The guy exactly knows what is happening around and he doesn't forget. His brain ticks, I mean, really ticks, right? You can see that he's quick, he's sharp, and he never forgets things, even in certain cases. Again, look at the apprentice where certain candidates are forgotten. Like in one episode where he comes and says, one candidate, he says, how many times were you in the boardroom? And that candidate actually forgets and gives another answer, 3 or 4. I was surprised. He remembers. These are not choreographed. These are real life scenes, right? The entire thing is shot with that. And amazingly, he remembers. He said, how can you forget? I remember how many times you came in. And is remarkable for a man to remember all these things. It's amazing. So that is the 4 characteristics of Donald Trump. Now, let's come back to the current geopolitical situation, what's happening. So we know who this person is. Now, in a world context, obviously he's holding one of the most crucial positions in this world right now. I don't understand why all these teams out there, these countries, they can't do this research because they can. You can actually build a psychological profile about Donald Trump in detail using the past data, using artificial intelligence, of course, and use it for your advantage. That is a normal thing you would do, right? If you have something to use for your advantage, leverage, why don't you use it? So I'm not sure why people are not using it, or maybe they are, at least I'm not seeing it. Now let's look at the current situation. See, Donald Trump is right now very famous for tariffs, right? He just gets overnight and he says, I'm going to impose 25%, 30%, completely sporadic, unpredictable, and he does different kind of gimmicks, right? These are all nothing to do with money, right? How much can you earn from tariffs? Is nothing. I saw some numbers, something like $8 billion earning. These are all nothing, right? When you talk about like 9, 10 trillions of dollars, right? In an economic sense, when you're talking about $80 billion, it's like a drop in the ocean. So anybody who knows this thing knows that this is not about money. Donald Trump doesn't need this money with tariffs, right? Is he doing it to bring in manufacturing to America? No, I don't believe that as well, because again, anybody knows that American manufacturing is dead, right? That died in 1950s, not today, right? You can't bring chip manufacturing, computer manufacturing, all those things into US. It's not going to happen. But I believe it's a power play. Donald Trump is using these tariffs as a power play, right? He wants to show, or at least he wants to tell the entire world and make sure the entire world knows that he is the boss. It's as simple as that. Now, if you get in with the books and if you concede, then he has won and he will say, okay, now no more tariffs for you. He can do that easily, right? He doesn't need it. America is what? Today the world global wealth is around 500 trillion, and I think America holds about 35% of it, right? America is already at a unique position which no other country can come to, right? Because America at the topmost of that food chain, America is already there. And how did you think they got there? Because they used these tactics, right? Because they decentralized manufacturing, put into the Asian countries, and they focused on the top food chain. Simple as that, right? That is why America is there. There is no reason to go back and reverse the entire thing. So this entire tariff is a power play, nothing else. The moment the dominance, the hierarchy is structured and established, Donald Trump will step back. So that's what he's doing. Now, so that is my view. Now, a couple of things are happening at the same time, right? This is a high stakes environment where people are jumping in, doing different decisions, high stakes. Certain things are happening which even Donald Trump didn't predict, which is actually an alliance, right? So you must understand, like, my enemy is your enemy kind of a thing. So when Donald Trump deploys these strategies to, let's say, 10 countries, now those 10 countries previously would have been enemies within themselves, but now they're aligning because of this unified cause. Now that is something which Trump did not predict. But interesting to see how he's gonna figure this out, right? And a couple of other things are happening where the prices are going up, right? There's a volatility taking place. Again, I don't think Donald Trump knew about it, or maybe he knew about it, doesn't matter. That's a repercussion which we are facing, right? Then also there's a turmoil going on. Right now, the markets are in turmoil because you do not know what Trump is going to do tomorrow. I think all these are part of a strategy that Trump is using because of power play. And it's very interesting to see how leaders are going to position themselves towards this. I don't know the answer. However, I think AI, maybe even coupled with quantum computing, quantum theories, can help us predict and prepare. All right. AI is very good at that because AI doesn't have emotions, it doesn't have empathy, sympathy, it's nothing, right? It's a cold machine. If you feed in the data and if you tell, it will amazingly accurately tell you what the outcomes are, right? I ran some models, very interesting outcomes. All what I'm speaking of, right, the AI models can predict for you, right? And I think the countries has to strengthen their AI in a geopolitical manner, in a political manner, and they have to use advanced theorems, advanced models. Uh, I'm really not sure where these people are, where the countries are, and how much they are using artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence, unfortunately, falls into two pockets. Either you have these scientists who use these models which nobody can understand under these closed machines, and they are using it for some theories or chemistry, or there is a kind of a generative model area where you really don't get much use of it. So there is nothing in the middle where people use these theories and then figure out sort of global negotiation, power plays, all these things can be done using certain AI models. So this is my take. Let's see how this pans out. I'm not taking any sides. I'm just being neutral. But fortunately or unfortunately, all these decisions that is being made impacts the common people, right? Impacts the person who goes on the road and the end of the day, pumps their gas, goes to the supermarket, buys some good. There is a massive impact going on, right? And I'm very curious to see what Donald Trump does next, how this entire thing is going to pan out, and how the rest of the world leaders are using AI, right, to counter or to negotiate or to leverage and to bring in some sort of a structure, right? Only time will tell. I know it's a bit of a long video. Let me know your comments and let's brainstorm together. Thank you.